In the world of Mechieval, guardians are the main force on the battlefield. But did you know not all guardians are affiliated with a kingdom? There are numerous independent orders, fully equipped, spread across the land, and each with its own purpose. The kingdom orders serve under the crowns. They answer to rulers, enforce laws, and fight the wars of whatever throne they stand beneath. Their loyalty is political, their purpose often decided by shifting alliances or royal decree, but not all orders kneel. Independent orders follow no king. They are self-governed, self-funded, and often older than the kingdoms whose land they now occupy. Their chains of command are internal, their missions are their own. Some control trade routes, keeping supply lines alive through territories too dangerous for caravans to cross alone. Others scour the beastlands, hostile ground few return from, searching for answers about the creatures that hunt mankind. And some do nothing but stand, stationed along the red line, the last wall. They hold the line against extinction, one steel plate at a time. Independent orders are unpredictable, respected by some, feared by others, but no one denies their purpose. Today we talk about them, the independent orders of Mechieval. And if you're still watching, please like the video. Thank you. After the fall in 1352, humanity was pushed to the brink. The old world collapsed under the weight of the beast. Cities fell, borders vanished. What remained of civilization scattered behind crumbling fortresses, hoping to survive one more night. But in 1420, the Order of the Sainted Flame made a move that changed everything. They had the armor, guardian suits, fully mechanical, tension-driven giants, powerful enough to stand against the monsters that had brought humanity to its knees. But armor alone wasn't enough. What they needed was people. Humans ready to wear the weight, fight, die, win. So they did the unthinkable. They released the schematics. Copies of the Guardian design were sent out. Not to kingdoms, not just to rulers, but to the world. To any group willing to take up the cause. It was a gamble. Flood the world with potential and see who rose from it. Some used the schematics to establish kingdoms. With guardians at their side, they seized land, declared crowns, and fortified what little ground they could claim. But others chose a different path. They formed orders, not governments, not courts. Orders, military brotherhoods bound by purpose, not power. Some hunted the beasts directly, pushing into hostile ground where no kingdom dared follow. Others built defenses, held choke points, and manned the last watchtowers at the edge of civilization. When the Sainted Flame offered to supply any group that could provide the human power, trained fighters ready to wear the armor, the number of orders exploded. Many were small. Some could barely man a war post or hold a narrow mountain pass. But as long as they offered resources or manpower to the neighboring kingdoms, they were allowed to operate. Among them was one that became legend, the Steelbound Legion. Unlike the others, they didn't stop at defense. They launched an offensive, a full campaign into the southern continent. Australia, once lost, was reclaimed through steel and fire. There, the Legion founded the kingdom of Mount Whaleback, not born from royal blood, but forged by discipline, coordination, and the will to fight. The independent orders were not built for politics. They were built to survive, and for a time, they did. One of the first to rise from that era of desperation was the Order of the Lost Women, founded by a figure now etched into Mechieval legend, Joan the Witch. It is an all-female order, its members clad in blood-red armor, worn in honor of Joan and the red scarf she never removed, even in battle. Unlike many other orders, their founding goal was not conquest or defense, but search and rescue. In the early days of the fall, countless women vanished, taken, lost, abandoned during the chaos. Joan refused to let them be forgotten. She formed an order with one purpose: to find the missing, and to bring every human they could back inside the walls of New France. What began as a small band of volunteers, most of them untrained, many of them dismissed, grew into one of the largest independent orders in the world. Their reach spread fast. Branches and outposts appeared across multiple regions, each acting semi-independently, but always answering to the core command, located in their capital, Witchhall. From there, strategy, supply, and records were coordinated with near-religious precision. And they did not just rescue, they fought. The Order of the Lost Women took part in nearly every major conflict of the early resurgence. They earned distinction during the Wolf's Crusade, held territory during the Fractured War, and survived the near-extermination event known as the Zorkul Decimation, where most others did not. Though they operate within the borders of New France, they are not a kingdom order. They control their own warposts and outposts. They answer only to their commander. The next order is the New Praetorian Guard. Its roots trace back to the remnants of survivors who fled the Papal States, a once proud theocratic power brought to ruin during the early years of the fall. Most of those who escaped found refuge in the Ironmark Assembly, a fortified kingdom known more for its pragmatism than its piety. There, the refugees were granted shelter, but peace did not last. The Pope, still convinced that humanity's survival depended on divine order, demanded a campaign to reclaim the lost lands of the Papal States. He persuaded the Ironmark Assembly to arm a new force, equipping his people with Guardian armor despite warnings from their war councils. The campaign ended in disaster. What followed became known as the Dark Holy War, a brutal, misguided crusade that cost thousands of lives and ended in total failure. Yet even in the ashes of that loss, the Pope refused to yield. His insistence on pressing forward strained relations with Ironmark leadership until, finally, the king ordered his exile. The Pope left Ironmark with a small force of loyalists, refugees, believers, and soldiers, and with them he founded a new order. They called it the New Praetorian Guard. Their capital was named New Rome. The Pope appointed a commander to lead the order in battle and crowned him with the title Caesar, a position that would carry military and administrative authority, while the Pope retained control over spiritual matters. The title of Caesar remained, passed down from one commander to the next. The Guard went on to forge their legacy through countless battles. Most importantly, they carved a path through beast-held territory, a supply line soaked in blood and grit. It came to be known as the Road of Darkness, the only trade route connecting New France to the Ironmark Assembly and the kingdoms in the Far East. In return, both Ironmark and New France supplied New Rome with guardian suits and critical resources, all funneled into one ambition: to reclaim the ruins of Old Rome. The New Praetorian Guard's armor reflects their identity, adorned in deep red and varnished gold, a tribute to both martyrdom and empire. They fought in the Fractured War and stood alongside Ironmark during the Zorkul Decimation, arriving just in time to prevent the fall of New France. They were born from the ashes of religion and reforged as a legion. Embanale Concord. It was once part of the Crimson Pact of Vostoya, a militant order devoted entirely to protecting the Red Line, humanity's last and greatest wall. Over time, the pact grew in size, resources, and ambition. Eventually, it transitioned from an order into a kingdom in its own right, a rigid defensive state built for one purpose: to ensure the Red Line never fell. But with power came disagreement. Some among the Pact's high command believed the time had come to expand beyond the wall, to push outward, reclaim territory, and clear Western Europe of the beasts that still roamed it. The goal was to carve out a wider safe zone, linking isolated strongholds and making room for more survivors. The Pact's leader refused. He held that the wall must come first, that diverting strength away from it would invite disaster. The debate turned bitter. Eventually, it broke the unity of the Pact. What followed was not civil war, but a sanctioned division. A group of senior commanders and their followers left, forming a new independent order that would operate within Vostoyan borders, but pursue a different mission. They called it the Embanale Concord. Their focus was clear: support the broader war effort beyond the wall. They aligned closely with New France and the Iron Mark Assembly, launching repeated campaigns into the western beastlands with the goal of driving the creatures back and reclaiming lost ground. So far, their efforts have been relentless, but without major victories. No cities retaken, no territory held for long. The beastlands continue to resist every attempt at reclamation. The Embernail Concord has stayed out of most large-scale wars, choosing instead to dedicate all of its energy to a single front, the long grinding push into enemy land. Whether their persistence will yield results or end in quiet failure remains to be seen. The next order, Iron Song Array, known in some regions as the Sons of War, began not as an independent order but as a hopeful kingdom. Formed shortly after the rise of the Covenant of Aegis, the Ironsong founders envisioned a realm of their own, a militarized coastal stronghold powered by guardian armor and naval trade. But vision alone was not enough. They lacked the numbers, the stability, and the resources to survive as a kingdom in a fractured world. Rather than collapse, they adapted. The Ironsong leadership entered into an alliance with the Covenant of Aegis. Under the terms of that agreement, they relinquished their claims of sovereignty and reformed as an independent order operating within the Covenant's territory. It was a compromise, one that allowed them to survive and thrive. Their new role was critical. The Iron Song Array was tasked with protecting the trade road that links Kirinyaga, a vital inland node, to the coastal heart of the Covenant. At the end of that road lies Ironhold, a fortified port city that became both their capital and their lifeline. From Ironhold, the Ironsong oversee fishing fleets, supply lines, and seaborne trade. They provide a large portion of the Covenant's seafood and maintain valuable trade with nearby kingdoms, using both steel and salt to secure their place in the political map. Their armor is distinct, yellow, black, and green, worn with pride in every campaign. And though they were not born for war, they proved themselves in it. The Ironsong Array played a key role in the fractured wars, holding the southern roads and ports while larger powers clashed inland. They may not rule a kingdom, but on the coastlines of the Covenant of Aegis, the Ironsong Array holds the line. The next order, a famous one, the Order of the Witch. It was born from the Order of the Lost Women. During the years they partnered with New France to control the western defenses. As the order expanded its reach, building war posts, outposts, and even beginning the foundation of a capital within New France, dissent grew within its leadership. That dissent came from Isabella, second in command to Margaret, the current leader of the order. Isabella objected to the growing dependency on New France. To her, this alliance was not strength, it was betrayal. After all, Joan, the founder and martyr of the order, had died because of the King of New France. To place their capital under his shadow, Isabella argued, was to forget that betrayal. Margaret disagreed. Fearing a schism, she reassigned Isabella to a distant war post, hoping distance would weaken her ideology. It did not. From the edge of civilization, Isabella launched repeated campaigns into the Beastlands. With every offensive, she spoke of founding a new kingdom, one free of foreign influence, one faithful to Joan's original cause. Margaret responded with quiet force. Supply lines were cut. No more armor, no more weapons. Still, Isabella refused to yield. Her forces dwindled. Many of her armored fighters were lost, yet she continued. Eventually, she returned to confront Margaret directly, a final attempt to win back control. Instead, she was arrested for rebellion. But Margaret knew what that risked. At least 100 fighters remained loyal to Isabella. Open conflict would break the order. A deal was struck. Margaret released her, stripped of rank, cut off from central command, but left to keep her war post. It was, in all but name, exile. Isabella accepted without protest, and then she began preaching. She claimed Joan had been divine, that her first battle had been fought without guardian armor, that she had stood, flesh and blood, against the beast. that the official records had been rewritten to make her look human, a false humility, a lie. Many believed her. Then the test came. A massive horde descended on the warpost. Isabella had fewer than 20 functioning guardian suits. She rallied every woman in the post, armed or unarmed, and ordered them to fight in the name of the witch. They won. Outnumbered, under-equipped, they held. The story spread like fire. In the aftermath, Isabella declared independence. "If the order will not supply us," she said, "then we are not part of them." Margaret, to the shock of many, accepted the break, quietly hoping they would fade, fall, or vanish into legend. But Isabella was not finished. She understood that martyrdom was not a strategy, that divine favor could not replace steel. So she traveled east to Kirinyaga and left her second-in-command in charge of the war post. There she begged for engineers, supplies, and access to forges. The high brazier of Kirinyaga was skeptical, but when he learned of her intent to push deep into the beastlands without retreat, he relented. With the help of Kirinyagan engineers, Isabella oversaw the creation of a new armor frame, the Guardian Angel of Death. Only women who had entered the beastlands unarmored and survived were permitted to wear it. They fought helmetless for maximum visibility. They dyed their hair red in honor of Joan. They carried brutal 5-foot rectangular shields and wielded heavy beast cleavers. They were a new force, fearless, unrelenting. The Order of the Witch was born. In 5 years, they took control of 2 major mines and established 2 new outposts, holding ground, but never declaring themselves a kingdom. The High Brazier had warned against it. Isabella obeyed, for now. They maintained contact with the Order of the Lost Women, but never bowed to it. Their leadership structure is brutal and clear. At the top stands the Supreme One, currently Isabella. Below her are the Recarnates, elite warriors who have entered battle at least 3 times without armor. They are said to channel the spirit of the witch. Beneath them are the regular Guardian fighters, trained, armed, disciplined. And at the bottom, the Summoners, women who fight without armor, often untested but utterly devoted. They believe that Joan's spirit watches them. They believe they are her true daughters, and in the Beastlands, they are feared. The Black Sigil Company was born from the ashes of betrayal and the refusal to keep repeating it. After the fall of the kingdom of Rushold, what remained of its people scattered. Cities were gone, strongholds abandoned. Only a few outposts still held the line, and one of them, deep in the east, was under the command of a man named Bogdan. Bogdan refused to bend. While the other survivors called for an alliance with the Crimson Pact of Vostoya, Bogdan declared that the Crimson Pact had failed them, and that he would rebuild Rushold without them. He named his outpost the new capital and began to consolidate power. But the beast did not wait for politics to settle. Attacks increased, defenses cracked, men and machines were lost faster than they could be replaced. Bogdan's pride became a liability, and within his own ranks, patience wore thin. One guardian, Bayezid, had seen enough. In a quiet coup, Bayezid arranged for Bogdan to be poisoned. The command post fell into his hands without bloodshed. But Bayezid did not crown himself. He did not call himself king. Instead, he ended the kingdom. Bayezid sent word to the Crimson Pact, requesting alliance. But he also understood that the people of Rushold, proud and bitter, would not accept submission. So he proposed a compromise. Rushold would not rejoin the pact. It would become an independent order, one tasked with defending the eastern stretch of the Red Line, the most exposed, least fortified section of the wall. The Crimson Pact agreed. The new order was named the Black Sigil Company. Their role was not passive. Unlike the Crimson Pact, which remained committed to strict defense, the Black Sigil Company launched frequent campaigns into the Beastlands, not out of strategy, but out of memory. Every foot of soil they took back was ground that had once been theirs. They do not speak of kings. They do not mourn the throne. They wear the Black Sigil in silence, not as a symbol of allegiance, but as a reminder of what was lost and what they intend to reclaim. The Order of Faithful Mothers, clad in guardian armor of purple and yellow, stands as the all-female chapter of the Peacemaker's kingdom. But their origin is not military, it is theological. When the Order of Lost Women surged in popularity, thousands of women, young and old, rushed to join. For many, it was a chance to reclaim strength and purpose in a broken world. But for Samira al-Zahra, it was a mistake. She was the youngest wife of Emir Sulaiman ibn Rashid, a quiet royal by status but a storm in her own right. While the world praised Joan the Witch and called her legend divine, Samira preached something else. She called it the duty of the mothers. To Samira, war was not the first duty of womanhood. Life was. A scorched land can regrow, she said, but a world without wombs cannot be saved. As Joan's myth grew, so too did Samira's resistance. She saw women, entire generations rushing to war before leaving anything behind. No children, no heirs, no root, only fire. She did not hide her disdain for Joan's legacy. In public sermons and carefully copied scrolls, she reshaped the myth. Even Joan, Samira declared, the witch they worship, bore no child, left no heir, planted no root. She lit a fire meant to send women to their death in numbers. What glory lies in dying empty? To some, her words were blasphemy. To others, they were truth. Samira was not merely a preacher, she was a tactician. With quiet pressure and strategic counsel, she influenced the emir's court. What began as faith became law. The rebirth decree passed. No woman could join the peacemaker's war front or even leave the kingdom unless she had birthed at least one child. Infertile women were granted an alternative: to raise the children of others until those mothers returned from war. Even men were subject to this mandate, required to father a child before joining the military. Critics rose. Whispers spread through the courtyards of Solhadrin, the capital. Some accused Samira of turning the womb into a prison. There were uprisings. Mothers who felt unready were forced to bear children. Some could not feed them. Others refused. But Samira met every protest with scripture, with charity, or with silence. Her followers chanted, "Sacrifice without seed is sacrifice undone." Over time, what was law became practice, and what was practiced long enough became faith. But the tide was not entirely hers. Many women, once they had fulfilled their birth quota, fled the kingdom to join the Order of the Lost Women, still drawn by the flame of Joan's legacy. Samira answered with steel. She founded her own guardian order, fully armored, officially sanctioned and blessed by law. The Order of Faithful Mothers. Their numbers swelled. Thousands of women saw in it a path to serve both faith and war. Their banner bore a cradle split by a spear. Their motto, "We have done our duty, now we only have war to live for." They were not girls in armor. They were mothers who believed fiercely that they had completed their first obligation to humanity and now owed nothing but battle. Where they marched, villages opened their gates. Where they fought, lines broke, not just from strength but from fear. They were not known for mercy, they did not seek it. Samira, now enthroned in incense and veils, took the title al-Mu'minat, Mother of the Faithful. She bore 12 children, each named after a unit of her order, each one trained to inherit a future not just of bloodlines but doctrine. In time, the Order of Faithful Mothers became more than soldiers. They were a military theology, a living scripture, a rival legacy to Joan's across the continent. In some places they were worshipped, in others feared, but never ignored. Their teachings spread beyond the peacemaker's kingdom, reaching distant provinces and foreign cities. In quiet towns and royal courts, women began to echo Samira's belief that war should not be the first choice, that the future must be born before it is defended. Pleased by the rising population and stability in his land, the emir did what few rulers dared. He named her Queen al-Mu'minat, and she accepted, not for glory but for proof. Her legacy had taken root. They came from North America, South America, Africa, and Europe, survivors from collapsing continents. Some arrived by ship, others drifted ashore in broken vessels. Most of the kingdoms already forming gave them little. A few were allowed to settle, most were ignored. They didn't complain. Instead, they formed a mercenary band using salvaged medieval weapons and armor. With no guardian suits and no formal backing, they hunted beasts anyway. In the early years, their losses were devastating. Dozens died to kill one, but they kept going. Kings began to take notice, not because they succeeded, but because they never stopped. When the Guardian schematics finally reached them, they didn't wait for permission. They scouted unclaimed land, found ore-rich mountains, and began mining. Without support, without engineers, they smelted iron, forged armor, and built their suits one part at a time. They called themselves the Knights of Steel. They continued as mercenaries. Kingdoms hired them to secure roads, defend outposts, reclaim trade routes. In return, the Order took pay, supplies, and the right to hold what they won. Over time, they established a network of war posts and outposts across the frontier. Their capital is a fortified warpost called Grave Mount. It's not ceremonial, it's a command center, built into a ridge above one of the earliest mines they claimed. From there, they manage deployment, armor production, and logistics across every post they control. The Order is fully independent. They form alliances where useful. They accept contracts from any kingdom that pays fairly. They do not take sides in royal disputes unless hired to. Their long-term goal is clear. They plan to return to the Americas, not to rebuild, but to search for survivors or reclaim ground if possible. Until then, they continue operating across the continent, taking contracts and expanding their reach one post at a time. They don't fight for ideals. They fight because no one else came back for them. And now they don't run.
If you made it this far, hit like and subscribe. Don't just watch. Support the world of Mechieval and help it grow. Got questions about the Guardians or anything Mechieval? Drop a comment. I always reply. Support me by engaging. It keeps this world alive.